You can come through with any questions or contributions that you have on the studio WhatsApp number 0775897897. And have consultations begun? Has the commission, Commissioner Mangwana, begun consultations of a delimitation with stakeholders that include local authorities, political parties, traditional leaders, and what have you?
Thank you, Linda. Like I said, the commission has done majority of the work, what we call the pre-delimitation activities. We've engaged the local authorities. We've written to local authorities to say, do you intend to increase any wards? Because remember, for local authorities, their budget will determine the number of councillors that they're able to support. So we've written to them to say, you as a local authority, how many wards are you looking at? Are you going to increase? Are you going to decrease? Because currently now I think we've got 1,958 local authority wards. We've also been writing to the Minister of Local Government to ensure that are there any provincial boundary changes towards the delimitation exercise, which we haven't yet received. So we are traditionally working with the traditional boundaries in terms of provincial boundaries, because provincial boundaries are not boundaries that the commission works on. The commission is only there to look at electoral boundaries, which are constituencies and wards. And we've also engaged a lot of stakeholders. I agree with you. We have spoken to traditional leaders. We've heard their concerns. We've spoken to we've shared with service providers. We have heard their concerns. All these are quite key in the consultation process. We've even taken political parties to discuss about delimitation and what we're looking at, and some of them have already been coming forth, and we look forward to a lot of more engagement at communities, which include districts as well as local authority and ward level, to ensure that people are able to share what they have in terms of their expectations of the delimitation, because the process has to be inclusive. The process has to be done in a consultative manner.
And there has been a huge debate around the recently gazetted nomination fees that aspiring candidates are expected to pay as nomination fees. What is the nomination fee structure like, for the benefit of our listener?
Thank you, Linda. That matter is already before the courts, but I would just say what the statutory instrument says, that for an aspiring candidate to be a president, they have to pay a nomination fee of 20,000. For someone to be an aspiring candidate for a member of parliament, National Assembly, they have to pay $1,000. And there's for the party lists, which are proportional representation, they have to pay $100 per party list. This matter is before the court, so we can't really discuss much about it.
I understand that, but what is it that had informed ZEC in determining those huge fees, whose impact clearly might disenfranchise some candidates?
What I can say is that ZEC is not the first time that it had issued statutory instruments in regards to nomination fees. I think we have got another one that was gazetted around 2015. So the changes have been happening, so the commission thought that it's important for us to do that. However, I think we can discuss more on the issue when it's done by the courts, because anyone has got an issue around what the commission has done, there's always a remedy to go to the courts. That's the reason why we say our elections are more illegal than they are logical. So we just wait for that.
Is the legal framework under which ZEC operates adequate, Commissioner Mangwana?
Thank you, Linda. I would say that the legal framework that we have, Linda, is adequate. That's the reason why we have been able to run elections. Even the by-elections, even the previous 2018 elections. The legal framework is adequate for us to conduct our work. However, there's always something that you can move. I will tell you that in Southern Africa, we've got one of the most waterproof, transparent electoral process, which some other countries have been coming to copy in Zimbabwe. I'll tell you that the aspect of displaying a V11 outside the polling station, Zambia even came to Zimbabwe to learn about that. But we don't make noise about it. But I think what we need to look at, Linda, is also put some order in the political players, because a lot of the issues that we raise at times, they're not really about the processes, about the electoral processes, but about a polarized political environment, which we as a commission have always said, no, there's need for order within the political stakeholders, such that when we engage with them, we don't compromise the integrity of the elections.
Some commentators have recommended that there be prescribed rules or code of conduct in the Electoral Act which ZEC should administer, such as punishing errant political parties, for example, who fuel political violence or any other such electoral breaches. What is your view as ZEC, and how do you think it should be administered?
Thank you, Linda. What we have done as a commission, we have already made recommendations to the Minister of Justice. One of them includes, the registration and regulation of political parties. This is very, very important, Linda. because currently we do have a code of conduct, which is more of a gentleman's agreement. You know, you say no, what do we agree? How do we move? There are no much binding issues where, you know, the competing people have to agree on the way forward. But if you don't have a regulator and a register of political parties, it's difficult to control the political environment. That's the reason why we as a commission have made that recommendation, so that there's some order, there's some registration, there's some regulation. However, we as a commission wouldn't want to be regulating and registering our political parties, Linda. We would recommend that if there's going to be a registrar of political parties, and who then regulates them, who puts, you know, rules so that political parties must adhere to. If there's an issue, they go there. We only receive a list from there. Currently, Linda, if you just wake up in the morning, you can actually print yourself a banner and go there and make a press statement and say, I'm now Linda Party. Now I'm going to be contesting in 2023 elections, and you write us a simple letter, and then you accept that, and then you're already in the database of the commission and you're able to contest. But
does ZEC see problems with this?
Yes, actually we have a database of almost close to 200 political parties, Linda, of which less than 10% of them participate in elections. If you look at the 2018 ballot paper for the presidential candidate, there are 23 presidential candidates. Just imagine the logistics, the calculations, look at the design of the ballot paper. All these issues have to affect. I'll tell you also that some of them just coming even to disrupt, you know, multi-party engagement that we do. If you remember the issue that happened at HICC, where one stakeholder stood on top of the table and started shouting and disrupted the whole multi-party liaison committee, not to contest in the election, but you look at the damage, and you know, you media people will be running around and say ZEC this, ZEC that. But however, it's just because someone is just participating in elections because they can. So that's the reason why we need registration and regulations of these.
And one of the justifications of ZEC around the high nomination fees is that it enables that there be serious contenders. And the argument has been, is it the place of ZEC to determine the seriousness of a candidate, or that's for the electorate?
No, it is for the ZEC as well. It's for everyone. We're actually making it easy for the electorate. When you go to vote, you won't be struggling with a lot of pictures coming in on the ballot paper. We have done you a good job, and you won't even take much time. I think it's also for ZEC to ensure that we educate the electorate what is good for them. So this is one of the reasons, indeed, that we think this will actually assist us, even the regulation and registration of political parties, because there are no chances. Now anyone can do it, and if anyone can do it, it becomes very difficult for the commission, because at times the integrity is not entirely, electoral integrity is not entirely dependent on ZEC's processes, but also in terms of the type of stakeholders that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission engages. They're also quite key. So there's no way you can expect us to be very a commission of integrity.
Why not leave it to the electorate to determine the seriousness of candidates?
But there has to be a threshold. There has to be rules of the game. Even if you want to go and play soccer, if you're playing soccer with how emotional people are in soccer, they want you to be serious. And you're talking about people getting into public office. An office where you want to represent a constituency, an office where you want to represent a population of people that are around 27,000 who are registered to vote. We're not talking about those that are not registered to vote. You talk about you getting into a public office where you want to become the first citizen of this country. And we're saying there are no rules of the game. Surely, Linda, there's no democracy has to prevail, and democracy requires some rules.
It is 3 minutes before we get into now Indaba. Senzo Mpofu already on standby. We continue our discussion with ZEC spokesperson, Commissioner Jasper Mangwana. And ZEC has in the past alluded to the need to amend the Electoral Act with the Constitution. What issues do you contemplate to have amended so that the Act is compliant or consistent with the Constitution?
Thank you, Linda. What I can say is that a wide range of issues that we've raised, including, you know, the recently, Zimbabwe now has the data protection and cyber security and data protection. We're looking at the voters roll of this nation in 2018. The voters roll, the national voters roll, was uploaded on a website in UK. That's the case that was reported to police, and all the people's private information was thrown around the world. You know, the voters roll include your name, your surname, your ID number, your sex, your date of birth, your address of residence. All this just flowing around, you know, in the world, because someone has been given a voters roll. They can upload on a website for anyone in the world, including hackers and people that might be threat, you know, because the voters roll is a security document. So these are some of the issues that we've recommended as a commission to say. Currently the concern says this is a public document, but can you really make a voters roll a public document? Because if you go in other countries around, you know, in Sadiki, you can't access such a document so easily, Linda. That's the reason why we as a commission say there is need for us to also protect the privacy of the voters. You know, at one point, some other people even wanted the voters roll with pictures, to say I even want to see Linda's picture on the voters roll. I want the voters roll with the picture. And then issues around identity theft and all this are also rising. Then a court, judgment was done where one of the voters raised that issue with court. That's the reason why we're not issuing the voters roll with the pictures. These are some of the issues that we've made as a commission. I also look at people just coming up in the morning and they want to contest, and then 3 days before election say, I now don't want. But we've already printed the ballot paper, your face is already appearing. So we needed to put some timelines on this to ensure that people are aware that when you commit to running for an election, you can only withdraw within this specific period of time. After this you can't, because the design of the ballot paper and the printing might have been done. So these are some of the issues that the commission has made recommendations to ensure that they're also looked into.
All right, so many messages that are already coming through on 0775897897, and we will be getting into those messages as we progress with the show after the news at 7 o'clock, so do keep them coming. I have in studio Zimbabwe Electoral Commission spokesperson, Commissioner Jasper Mangwana. We continue with our discussion, and I have in studio Zimbabwe Electoral Commission ZEC spokesperson, Commissioner Jasper Mangwana, as we discuss all the processes in the run-up to the 2023 harmonized elections, including delimitation and all other issues. So you can come through on 0775897897 and ask any questions or give us your contribution regards our issues in the studio, and we can have Commissioner Mangwana responding to those issues. Now, before that news break, Commissioner Mangwana, I had asked around issues of if it is the role of ZEC to then determine the seriousness of candidates, and I have about 3 or so questions coming through on our WhatsApp platform, contributions rather from our listeners saying, ZEC ngavati siye tinotaura isusu tega kuti ma candidates are serious here patinoenda kuballot. Maybe you could just respond to that before we move on with our questions.
Thank you so much, Linda. But it was been a question if everyone's going to come in and want to go the ballot paper. You are not going to take your EMB very serious, your election management body, because everyone can. So it doesn't mean they should. So that's also noted. The commission consider that, but the position of the commission is quite clear, because we want to make the electorate be able to choose people to represent them in parliament, in local authorities, as well as in presidium.
And what challenges has the Commission faced as far as the delimitation process is concerned?
Thank you so much, Linda. What I can say is we haven't really got a lot of problems now, but majority of our work has been done because of good stakeholder engagements to ensure that the key people that will raise concerns are aware of what is going to be done. We took most of the groups of the people that are interested in delimitation, and we educated them to say, this is the delimitation process, this is the impact of the 2013 constitution, this is how the commission is going to be doing it, including even sharing with them, the formula that's going to be used for delimiting constituency. How do we come up with an average, and what do we do in terms of plus or minus 20%, and different other aspects that are there. But however, we continue as a commission to show that we do more voter education, raise awareness to the public, community radios, bulk SMS on social media. People must be aware of what is happening to ensure that we also have them along the way.
And how are you dealing with political parties, for instance, that may feel that their support base has been taken away from constituencies or wards in the delimitation process?
Thank you so much, Linda. What I can say is that the commission has different stakeholders. Remember, political players are not the only people that are going to be there, because most of these boundaries will also become administrative boundaries. That's the reason why the commission is setting up what are called delimitation committees. We're going to have one at national level, provincial level, district level. People are going to be looking at these different electoral boundaries to ensure that people are able to share what they have. However, for those that have got that fear, I think it's too early for them to do that, because we haven't really had much discussions in terms of the changes in terms of constituencies and wards. So for them to start fearing that, I don't think it's going to be correct and accuse the commission on something that it has not yet done, because we haven't spoken to political parties, especially those that are concerned in provinces, those that are concerned in districts. We haven't gone to the ground to say this is what is there. But what we've done as a commission, Linda, is that we have done technical training for people to ensure that there's a lot of mapping happening. GIS software is working to ensure that we come up with good maps and things that represent what is exactly on the ground. So we want to say to them, they should not fear anything. The commission ensure that we'll do it in a consultative, fair, transparent manner to ensure that we delimit these. And remember, Linda, we have to do that 6 months before the harmonized election. So ZEC is very busy now. I think if you see, we've reduced in terms of our stakeholder engagements, especially engagements that have nothing to do with the delimitation. Why? Because this is a key activity we are looking at. Otherwise, if we miss the target, it means we're going to revert to the 2007 constituency boundaries, which will not really add value to our electoral processes.
Is ZEC happy with the budgetary support from Treasury?
Thank you, Linda. One thing that we have always said before is that we are happy with the budgetary support from Treasury. You are aware that ZEC has never missed an election because of budgetary constraint. We have done all our work in accordance to the provisions of the law to ensure that if it means that the nomination court is to sit at this day, resources are available for that. If voter educators have to go on the ground, voter educators go on the ground. If a voter authority to be issued to the contesting candidates at nomination court, that is done. This is all happening because the commission is supported by Treasury. We appreciate that. However, Linda, resources are never enough, especially for artificial and other additional things. But for the commission to run its programs, we are happy with the support that we have.
We have had in the past the chairperson, the ZEC chairperson, raising concerns around the budget. Which areas do you think that, or does ZEC think that would need improvement as far as support from Treasury is concerned?
Thank you so much, Linda. What we can say as a commission is that yes, we would want more resources, because usually when you submit your budget, because Zimbabwe Electoral Commission runs on the taxpayers' money, there's need for value for money in all the services that we provide. We always say we always ask for more. Maybe where there are 3 vehicles required, we might ask for 5. Maybe where we need 3 vehicles, may be given 2. But however, that does not stop what the commission is to do. So in terms of to say that we did not achieve what we intend to do because of resources, that will not be correct. But however, we want to continue to implore Treasury to continue supporting us in all the budgetary requirements that we have.
Alright, it is 11 past 7 o'clock. Do keep your messages coming through on 0775 897 897. Someone says, can you please ask if it's possible for ZEC to have an online election system whereby we will be able to monitor the results as the elections are taking place? I hope you understand the question, Commissioner Mangwana, and if you can respond to it.
What I can say, Linda, is that our voting in this country is manual. Election results transmission is also manual. And the verification is also manual done, and then we publish them. I'm not so sure exactly the result they're talking about. What I can tell you is that at each and every polling station, soon after voting, when the counting is done, they paste what is called a V11 form, where we think that's where the election ends, which is available to anyone. If any institution has got an observer or an agent, they're able to access that, because that is published at every polling station. When that V11 is there, what then happens is it's transmitted manually to the ward collection center. At ward collection center, that's when different polling stations in a specific ward, they're collected, they're verified, and everyone is happy. And then after that, that's where the declaration of the councillor is done. After the declaration of the councillor, there's another form that goes to the next level, which is a constituency, where the MP has to be declared. So if you look at this, those that are interested in the council winner, they have the results because they're declared at the ward level. Those interested in the constituency, they have the results because they're declared at the constituency. The only ones that come to the head office, where the chairperson of the commission will announce the winner, because the chairperson is the returning officer for the presidential candidates. This is going to be the command center. All these have to come manually. I cannot say we have something as a commission to that effect. No, currently our voting is manual, our transmission is manual. whoever wants to have something that they can do on the side ways, if they are accredited, then they can do on their own. Note that the commission has got something that is official to provide on that aspect.
And your response to this contribution is coming from an SA number. They say that ZEC is not doing enough to create trust in the electoral process. For example, the ZEC spokesperson has alluded to very high population increases in Epworth and Harare South. This raises eyebrows. What's your response to this, Commissioner Mangwana?
I'm not so sure exactly, because there's a different with facts are just facts, Linda. If you want me to sugarcoat and say we don't have, I've even raised one, but is it Chikanga in Manicaland? Unless otherwise you would want me to pick a constituency which does not have one of the biggest numbers. But I just picked the few numbers that I know because I was commissioner in charge of Harare. We already had a headache on those constituencies because I was commissioner in charge of Harare, so I knew the voter populations. I know very well, even on our conduct what we've been looking at, there are some constituencies in other provinces that are over the maximum threshold that we're looking at, but however these were quite on the extreme side.
All right, and someone says, I believe ZEC is a referee in the electoral process, so should the referee determine the seriousness of players? I think you've responded to that question. Now, there have been concerns, Commissioner Mangwana, that the delimitation process will not be thorough and exhaustive given the remaining time left. If we are to follow the Constitution, Section 158 provides that polling in a general election must take place not more than 30 days before the end of the current Parliament's 5-year term, which will end on 26 August 2023, the day when the President was sworn in, meaning we cannot hold polls beyond the 26 July 2023. Now, will ZEC be able to meet the deadline and hold elections with stipulated time frame?
Thank you, Linda. I think what we have done as a commission, we have shared our roadmap on delimitation, I think, which is a positive thing. It's unfortunate people would want to refer to fake sources, Linda. Go to the ZEC website, you find a roadmap in terms of the activities that the commission would do on delimitation. The pre-delimitation activities have already been done. Now we're actually working on the actual delimitation, and we're happy to update the nation that we are on course. Just this past week we're doing the last technical training for, as I'm speaking to you right now, our people are on the ground. That's the reason why you really find a lot of people in ZEC offices. Why? Because delimitation is what we're indebted with, and we are working to ensure that we submit our preliminary report by December to His Excellence, and then His Excellence must table it before Parliament, so that when Parliament looks at that, if there are any issues that are raised, they're brought back to the Commission so that we can send it back and have these boundaries gazetted. This is what the Commission is doing. There's no reason for them to fear, Linda. I'm not so sure what activity exactly that they're looking at, but we as a commission, we've already started having engagement with traditional leaders. Local authorities have responded. However, we're still consolidating the data so that we can then share with people, for people to know that if it's the Harare local municipality, how many wards is it going to be having in the next 10 years? Because remember, these boundaries will work for the next 10 years, Linda. So we want to assure the nation that the commission is committed to that. We are on the ground, and we will make sure that we deliver these delimited boundaries by December.
I think given that the delimitation exercise is informed by the National Population and Housing Census, we are still waiting for a full report, and the newly delimited election boundaries are to be used. The exercise must be completed by 26 January 2023 to give the mandatory 6 months lead period to election after delimitation, which would mean that we have just 4 months left for the exercise, yet we're still waiting for the full report of the population census.
What I can tell you, Linda, is that if you look at the formula in the Constitution, delimitation is more inclined to the voter population. There is a formula in the Constitution which says that the number of registered people, the voter population that the Commission has, which closes at 30th of May, divided by the 210 constituencies that we have, that should create what should be named a noble constituency. However, the Commission can go plus or minus 20%, taking into consideration other factors. the population report, the preliminary that we've got as a commission, is already a guide of what we as a commission need to know to factor in when we're doing our delimitation, because it shows us the new residents that are there, it shows us the new places that are there. Remember, we do have what we call an alpha list. An alpha list is a list of addresses that are associated with a specific polling station. All these are also coming in from this census report. So I think the preliminary one is actually good for us to start working. However, when the one comes in, we would have already done our work, majority of our work, and really January will be done.
During an interview with the ZTN recently, the ZEC chairperson said some civic society organizations were giving people incentives to go and register to vote when they've already registered. How is ZEC dealing with this issue?
Thank you, Linda. What I can say is that we as a commission, we are really working on that. Recently we did an audit of voter educators, meaning to say CSOs, organizations that have been approved by the commission to conduct voter education, to show that they also conform to the legal requirements for any organization that is to conduct voter education on behalf of the commission. Very true, we had some problems. Some would actually tell you that we can go and have your hair done, we can buy you pizza, we can give you $20, all these things, and people end up going and standing at our voter registration centers while they've already registered before, so that they can just get a slip and get taken a picture. Recently, Linda, I'll tell you that there have been buses coming to some of our offices to realize that maybe 40 or 50% of the people that have been ferried in the bus, they're already registered voters. But because someone has said that I promise to give you something, people just coming and do that. We always try to discourage, both political players as well as civic society organizations, to ensure that they as far as we push the good agenda to have people registered to vote, let's not take those that have already registered to vote, because at the end of the day, it's a cost in terms of time and a lot of other issues. I also raised to you that, Linda, you know that last year around December, there's a CSO that came out and said we assisted people to register, assisted 10,000 people to register to vote. They were just justifying their financial budget, to their donor, and it affected the integrity of the commission, whereas the commission had registered about 2,600 people by then. And then it was all noise on social media to say ZEC is lying. But does the CSO register people to vote? That's a mandate of the commission. Where do you get the statistics for registration? From the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. But if you're going to be, trying to justify your budget by denting the integrity of a whole commission, later on to realize that that organization, Linda, was not even registered in this country and was not even accredited as a voter educator or for Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. These are some of the small issues that are raised by some of our stakeholders which dent the integrity of our electoral processes. So we cannot have a polarized political environment and a polarized civil society environment that will not add value to our electoral processes. There's need for order in that aspect.
All right, and so maybe run us through what is required of an organization to conduct a voter education. Is it the sole mandate of ZEC, or can other organizations do it? And what does it take for them to be able to do so?
They have to be registered in this country. They have to submit a list. The directors or the trustees, they must be Zimbabwean. They should also provide an application to the commission which shows where they're mandated to do voter education, and then the commission will look at the application. They have to share where their funding is coming from. This is quite key because it's part of the Electoral Act, which says that. Because just imagine, Linda, one political party goes and funds a CSO, and then a CSO does voter education. Voter education doesn't stop even during elections. That will not really push for a fair, transparent electoral process. So these are some of the requirements in the Electoral Act. I think section 30D, which speaks of the requirements. And then when they do their voter education, Linda, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission must supervise it to make sure that it's non-partisan, it does not favor one, and also issues around inclusion of everyone. These are some of the key aspects. So if they write to the commission sits down, and then they look at the people. If they approve it, then they get a response, say you can go ahead. Which areas do you want to do? When they are about to go in those areas, Linda, the material that they distribute must be approved by the commission. But recently, anyone who is good in designing, then just do any funny design about elections and send it through. And also with an issue, Linda, where people mix civic education and voter education. You cannot move around with our ZEC bib and say I'm doing voter education and mix it with civic education, because at the end of the day it will seem like you're campaigning, you're doing a favor to specific narrative and other things. So that's the reason always the commission we're quite clear that whoever wants to do voter education, when you do voter education, don't mix it with your other programs.
What legal improvements then do you think are needed to address this mischief you talk about by our CSOs and political parties?
We've already done an audit as a commission, and we're going to be putting a notice because we're already empowered to do that according to the Electoral Act. So we're going to say every year, maybe you should need to renew your letter. If you for us to renew a letter, submit a report on what you've been doing. Some of them, they never even submitted a report ever since they've been accredited as a commission to do voter education. Give us a report. What have you seen? What are your recommendations? What has been your practice? These are already there. The commission is just implementing.
All right, there are a number of similar questions such as this, which says, good evening, I registered to vote last time Ndichigara Kukadoma, and I relocated to Bait Bridge. So do I have to register again, or my name is already registered? I've seen a number of similar questions. If you could assist our listener.
Thank you, Linda. What they need to do is just go to any ZAC office or where our offices are and fill in a transfer form, because you don't need to register again, because already taken your biometric details and your voter registration is already in the system. All you need to do is to completely say, I need a change of address so that you can allocate me a new polling station where I'm going to be voting from. And also maybe for the public to aware, Linda, that our digital platforms where people are able to check their voter registration details, currently it only has the 5.8 million and something voters that closed as at the 30th of May. However, we look forward when we put a notice on the voter population and the voters are to be used for delimitation, we'll then add those that registered after the 30th of May.
All right, and some of the contributions that are coming, someone says, okay, all right, vote buying is illegal if a political party or individuals, okay, within a party are caught vote buying. How do they get punished? Any example of punishment meted out before?
Okay, well, what I can say, Linda, you know what, that's an electoral malpractice. Someone must be reported to the Zimbabwe Republic Police, even come to the commission to say we've got a report that we have, and then we escalate to the Zimbabwe Republic Police so that ZRP is able to investigate and prosecute, and then a judgment is done by the courts, because this is an allegation that has to be prosecuted and that has to be investigated. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission currently does not have any investigative or prosecution powers, but what we can do is to relate to the different aspects. If it's an issue around the human rights, you know, we don't work alone. We also work with other commissions that also play a pivotal role. For instance, the National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. Any issues around peace, we also work together with them. You look at issues around the media where we think maybe there's no fair media coverage, we also work with the Zimbabwe Media Commission and the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe. You look at issues where you think human rights issues are a key concern, we also work with the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. So we don't work alone. If an issue on gender, Linda, which I think is quite key and topical those days, we also work with the Zimbabwe Gender Commission. So we are there to ensure that we coordinate and ensure that we provide free, fair, credible elections.
And there have been issues, Commissioner Mangwana, around the voters' roll. What really are the pressing challenges and how are you addressing them? We've had issues around the format. Should it be electronic or should it be manual? The fees are related to accessibility of that voters' roll. How is ZEC addressing those challenges or those concerns by stakeholders?
Thank you so much. What I think one concern that stakeholders have been saying is one that some have been requesting the voters roll with the pictures. Previously, the Commission has been issuing this voters roll in electronic format, in Excel format. We've been trying to push to ensure that we provide a secure way to ensure that we secure the data of the voters in a platform that is quite good, so that there's no pirating of the voters roll. Imagine someone getting a CD in 2022, Linda. You'll find the voters roll being sold in First Street, because whoever is looking for credit and people that owe people money, they need this information. So we as a commission are trying to see how we can ensure that when we give access to people in terms of the voters roll, we still control the narrative that they have. However, what we've said as a commission, Linda, is that we published, you know, there was a massive voter inspection in July. I hope you're aware of that, which stretched for a period of 10 days, where we put the voters roll at 11,107 polling stations, where people are able to go there and check and verify their voter registration details, over and above the digital platforms that are there, the *265# on Econet and Net1, the Beaver Inspection Portal, which is online, to show that people are able to check their details. There are issues, a lot of issues right around the integrity of the voters roll. But surprisingly, you know what, Linda, like I've said, if the political environment is polarized, it will even affect the narrative and thinking of people. We got less than 0.2% complaints in terms of things to be changed on the voters roll, and majority of them with just simple typos on addresses, things that does not even affect someone from voting, from casting their vote. But however, with the commission, we did it at the taxpayers' money to ensure that we enhance the integrity of the voters roll. So I think when we're going to publish this one, there's not going to be much noise. And also, you've seen us gazetting in terms of changes of editing of some names in the voters roll. We did the gazettes this year, a removal of the deceased. We also did that. These are some of the issues that the commission has been doing, as it is empowered by the law to do so.
All right, and I understand that ZEC sent representatives to observe elections in Kenya and Angola. Are there any take-home lessons from elections held in those two countries, Commissioner Mangwana?
From Kenya and Angola, I think we do had a team that went in, they observed the elections. We got the reports. We are yet to deliberate to see from the people that went there what exactly can we learn, what can we take in. But generally, what we've heard from majority of them, I think the Kenya, the 34B, they also do have their V11s, but it has a different name, which is almost the similar thing that we have here. The only difference is that maybe around Kenya, you look at the registration of political parties and all the requirements that are there. I think the similar thing with Angola, but we'll share with the public when we deliberate as a commission on those issues.
And what would your response be to concerns raised around the independence of ZEC, its credibility as an electoral management body, as we end the show, and your parting remarks to the listeners?
Thank you, Linda. What I can say is that every electoral process has to pass the ultra-virus test. If it does that, which is the legal test, it means it's a clean process. The independence of the commission is guaranteed even in the constitution of Zimbabwe. Not only that, even in terms of how we do our conduct, Linda, the buck stops with the commission, and we mean the commission, we mean the commissioners, because the secretariat, all it does is to operationalize and do the work on behalf of the commission. The issues around the independence, we make our own decisions, and our decisions are guided by the laws of this country. We do things according to the law because we're an independent, commission. I think there's so many things said by different people, but I want to set the record straight that we're an independent commission. We make the decisions. If people have issues, they should engage the commission to seek clarification, and also encourage the public to follow, Zimbabwe Electoral Commission on social media as well as our website. We recently launched a new website which is very user-friendly and mobile compatible, where people are able to download and get reports about elections, correct information. I think we have seen a lot of misinformation, disinformation. This is what we're trying to come out as a commission, to ensure that the people is aware of that. And then we as a commission, Linda, will try our best to ensure that we are transparent. The integrity must be one of the key issues that we have. We are your commission. Anything that you have, bring it to the commission. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is there to ensure that we conduct elections in a free, fair, credible manner.
Commissioner Jasper Mangwana, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much, Linda. It was a pleasure to be here.
And many thanks to all the listeners that came through via WhatsApp platform 0775897897. We certainly hope that we will have ZEC in future shows to discuss the roadmap to 2023 as it unfolds. I am Linda Muriro. Until next time, it is goodbye for now.
You've been listening to Muriro.